Colorado Hazard Control shares valuable insights on important considerations regarding the asbestos inspection process. Protecting your property, essential steps for asbestos inspection and abatement. In Colorado, all properties where a renovation or demolition activity is planned must be inspected for asbestos before any building materials are disturbed. Other states have similar requirements, although some may not be as stringent as Colorado's. In situations where repairs must be undertaken related to a catastrophic event, the affected building materials must also be inspected for asbestos prior to disturbance. The inspection must be performed by a state-licensed building inspector working for a state-licensed asbestos consulting firm. Before hiring a professional to perform an inspection, it's essential to research them. In particular, it's helpful to find reviews from other clients online, as their insights about working with the individual or organization can help you decide if you want to use their services. Licensed building inspectors are trained in sampling procedures mandated by the Environmental Protection Agency, EPA, and the state of Colorado to determine the presence or absence of asbestos in building materials. This involves collecting a specific number of bulk samples, analyzing them under a microscope, and reporting the results by type of asbestos and the percentage by layer. Asbestos-containing building materials are defined as those having more than 1% asbestos by weight per layer. Asbestos and OSHA. In addition to requirements placed on building owners, employers must protect their employees from asbestos. The Occupational Safety and Health Administration, OSHA, follows the same rules, including requiring inspections prior to disturbing building materials if the presence of asbestos is suspected. However, OSHA regulates exposure to a higher standard, requiring action to protect employees even in buildings where asbestos is present but below the 1% threshold. Why asbestos inspection and removal is essential. Asbestos is a naturally occurring mineral of which there are 6 types: chrysotile, amosite, crocidolite, tremolite, actinolite, anthophyllite. The vast majority of samples, around 95%, contain chrysotile asbestos. The other 5% of the time, amosite is present. The remaining 4 types, while still regulated, are generally not commercially mined and, if discovered, are in small quantities. The problem with asbestos is that exposure to it through inhalation or ingestion has been shown to cause cancers, including lung, heart, stomach, and intestinal cancers. It can also cause a fibrotic scarring disease of the lungs called asbestosis. Asbestos dust is exceptionally aerodynamic, which allows it to remain suspended in the air for days. Microscopic fibers can float in the air, undetectable to the naked eye, and be inhaled continually by unsuspecting occupants of a contaminated space for long periods. Unfortunately, the EPA has determined there is no safe level of asbestos exposure. Given how problematic asbestos is, you may wonder why manufacturers ever used it in building materials. The reason is that asbestos has unique properties that make it extremely useful when added to building material recipes. These properties include strength, fire resistance, an effective insulator, generally good for sound absorption, impervious to chemical attack, plentiful, inexpensive to mine. These characteristics meant that manufacturers could, for example, increase a building material's fire rating and sound deadening capabilities with little expense by simply adding this mineral. Consequently, companies added asbestos to most building materials used in the construction of schools, hospitals, commercial properties, industrial facilities, public buildings, and residential properties. Virtually all structures built or renovated between 1940 and 1989 are likely to have asbestos-containing building materials in one form or another. Note, in Colorado, all structures, regardless of age, must be inspected before building materials are disturbed during renovations, repairs, or demolitions. This is crucial since asbestos can be found in structures built or renovated outside that period. Asbestos can be found in a long list of products, including plasters, drywall muds and textures, fireproofing, exterior sidings, exterior stucco, roofing shingles, tars and felts, window glazing, caulking, resilient floor coverings and associated mastic, glues, pipe, tank, and vessel insulations, attic insulation, foundation coatings, water piping, fabric, door cores, wire insulation. These and other related items. This isn't an exhaustive list, don't always contain asbestos. However, the only way to know if they do is to have an asbestos professional conduct an inspection in compliance with EPA and state regulations. Important considerations regarding the asbestos inspection process. Asbestos removal and cleanup can be costly, so it is important to evaluate the content of building materials before they are disturbed. It is acceptable and legal to assume a material contains asbestos and, consequently, not go through the asbestos inspection process but move straight to removal. However, given the cost of safe remediation, asbestos testing is a wise investment that can help building owners avoid a significant expense if the mineral isn't present. Next steps after an asbestos inspection. You've had an asbestos inspection company perform an assessment in compliance with EPA and state requirements. Now what? First, review the provided report carefully and identify any asbestos-containing materials before you begin work. Next, contact a licensed general abatement contractor, GAC, to get pricing for the safe and regulatory compliant removal of the identified materials. These contractors must be licensed by the state and employ EPA-trained and state-licensed employees to remove materials properly and safely. The contractor should be able to provide the appropriate credentials for their company and employees. You should also ask to see documentation proving they are insured to perform asbestos abatement work and request to be insured by the contractor as the owner of the affected property. It's a good idea to contact at least 3 GACs for pricing and proof of certification. Asbestos inspection reports are often confusing, and asbestos remediation can be complex, but you can pose questions to asbestos inspection companies when researching them. We also recommend checking references for the GACs you're considering. Ensuring everyone is clear on the scope of work. Once you select a contractor, there must be a clear scope of work, SOW. Your renovation or demolition contractor should review it to ensure all the asbestos-containing materials potentially impacted in the renovation or demolition project will be handled properly before putback begins. Having all the materials addressed at once is cost-effective versus needing the GAC to remove additional materials in a subsequent visit. Asbestos inspection and remediation, safety is imperative. Asbestos is a dangerous material that's hard to detect and can cause lung problems and several types of cancer. There is no safe level of asbestos exposure. Consequently, you must adhere to EPA and State of Colorado regulations and make the health and safety of building occupants paramount. The good news is that you can do some research and find a company with licensed, trained, and insured professionals, like ours at Colorado Hazard Control, to handle asbestos inspection and removal safely. Then, you can be confident that people can work in or visit your building free of asbestos-related health risks. About Colorado Hazard Control. Colorado Hazard Control is the natural industrial, commercial and residential environmental solutions provider achieving the highest quality workmanship by focusing intensely on what we do best: health, safety, and environmental compliance. With locations in Denver, Colorado Springs, and Pueblo, we offer our services statewide. Whatever your needs, lead abatement, mold remediation, radon mitigation, demolition, or training, we're there with 24-hour emergency response available. https://www.coloradohazard.com. Media contact. Linnell Beaver, 303-410-4941.